As we enter into the 6th century BCE, the region that we now associate with modern-day Iran and beyond was controlled by the Medians. And you can see this region that's referred to as Media here on this map. But as we enter the middle of that century, as we get to about 550, 549 BCE, the Median Empire gets overthrown by the rulers of one of their regions, by one of their kingdoms. And that ruler is Cyrus the Great. And he was originally Cyrus II, but he gets termed Cyrus the Great because he establishes what is often associated as the first great, truly Persian empire. And he establishes this empire, which is called the Achaemenid Empire. Achaemenid. And you might say, why is it not called the Cyrid Empire after Cyrus the Great? Well, that's because Cyrus comes from the Achaemenid dynasty. He claims he is a descendant of Achaemenes. Achaemenes. And so let me draw a dotted line. Achaemenes to Cyrus the Great. And he's not done once he just conquers the Median Empire. And he does that, as I said, in 549, around 550, 549 BCE. But over the next decade, he conquers most of what you see in this map here, except for Egypt. In the mid-540s, he is able to conquer the Lydian Empire, which is right over here on the western half of the Anatolian Peninsula in modern-day Turkey. And these are some of the great empires of the time. And then as we go to, so that's in the mid-540s, and then we get to 539 BCE, where Cyrus the Great is able to famously conquer the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and he's able to take Babylon. And from a biblical point of view, this is relevant because he is able to free the Jewish people from the Babylonian captivity, and he resettles them to Jerusalem, and he helps them rebuild Jerusalem, especially the Temple of Solomon, and establish the second temple at the Temple Mount. Now, Cyrus and he's credited with many things. He's often viewed by history as a model ruler, what it means to take your people's interest at heart. Cyrus, and he's also known for the real spread of the Zoroastrian faith. As we mentioned in the overview video, Zoroastrianism was established by Zarathustra, and it's not clear when Zarathustra lived. He might have lived as early as 1500 BCE, all the way, some accounts have him living slightly before, or maybe even coincident with Cyrus the Great. But Cyrus the Great is really responsible for spreading the Zoroastrian faith. But Cyrus dies in 530 BCE, and there's many different accounts of why he died. And as you'll see, a lot of these Shahs, as Cyrus the Great was referred to, King of Kings, the emperors of the Persian Empire, how they died and how the succession happened to the next Shah, they're all a little bit shady, and there's multiple accounts of how it happened. But needless to say, after Cyrus, his son Cambyses II takes control. Cambyses. And Cambyses does several things. The most notable thing he does is he's able to overthrow the pharaohs of Egypt and end thousands of years of rule by I guess you could say, the native Egyptians, and take over and take in Egypt into the Persian Empire. He does other things. Cyrus the Great established a capital at Pasargadae, right over here. And on this map, it's in the region, in the state or the province of Persis, or Pars or Fars, depending on how you want to think about it. Cambyses established another capital at Susa, but he spent most of his time in Egypt, trying to conquer Egypt. And so you can imagine that leaves a power vacuum. And this is an interesting story here, because the power vacuum, Cambyses did have a brother, and that brother is named, let me do it right here. His brother is named Bardia. Now, there's different accounts of what happened to Bardia. There's some accounts that Bardia was killed by Cambyses. There's other accounts that while Cambyses was away, Bardia claims the throne. Now, depending on which account, the account of Bardia being killed by Cambyses, the real Bardia being killed by Cambyses, in that account, well, that means that the person who claimed the throne was a fake Bardia, someone who just claimed to be the son of Cyrus. And that person was Gamatha. And Gamatha was a Zoroastrian priest. And once again, we don't know if he was a usurper, someone who just pretended to be Bardia, or whether he was the actual Bardia and he tried to claim the throne. But needless to say, as he was trying to take the throne, Cambyses eventually dies, and even his death is an interesting story that maybe we will go into in another video. But then there's this character Darius, and Darius will one day be known as Cyrus the Great. He is not a son or a direct descendant of Cyrus, but he is a distant relative. So you have Darius. He is also part of the Achaemenid family, claims descendant from Achaemenes. He is a part of the forces of Cambyses. And when he sees this Bardia guy take control, this Gamatha guy, this guy who claims to be Bardia, take control in 522 BCE, after Cambyses' death, he says, oh no, hold on a second. I don't like the look of that. He's able to get other nobles together, and they kill this Gamatha. And it's actually Darius's account that claims that this Gamatha was a fake Bardia. But other people say that no, he was actually the real Bardia, and he was the rightful heir to the throne of Cyrus, and that Darius just had him killed. But needless to say, Darius takes control of the throne in 522 BCE, and he will be known as Darius the Great, because he continues to expand the Persian Empire. Under his rule, the Persian Empire has control of the largest fraction of the human population that any empire has ever had. Over 50 million people are the estimates that I've seen, are what were under control of the Persian Empire. And this map right over here, this is the Persian Empire around 500 BCE under Darius the First, or Darius the Great. And that was almost 50% of the world population at that time. Now, the other things that Darius is known for, he establishes a capital at Persepolis. Once again, Persepolis is the Greek name for the city. Persepolis literally means the city of the Persians. Persepolis. You see the word polis a lot, referring to cities in the Greek language. The other thing that he's well known for, and we covered it in some detail on the Greco-Persian Wars, is he's the one that really was kind of tired dealing with these Greek uprisings in the Anatolian Peninsula. He was upset at the Athenians for supporting those uprisings, and it was really his attempts to take over Greece that were the first Greco-Persian Wars, and those were right around this period right over here in the 490s BCE. Let me do that in a slightly different color. In the 490s BCE. But as we saw, he wasn't able to finish the job. And then you have his son take over in the mid-580s BCE, Xerxes. And Xerxes, once again, tries unsuccessfully to take over the Greeks. And once again, all of these accounts are often from the Greek point of view, most famously Herodotus. And so you have to take them all with a grain of salt, because they make the Greeks look awfully good and the Persians maybe not as good. But it's important to keep in mind that at this point in time, at the time of Darius the Great, at the time of Xerxes, the Greeks were really just upstarts. They were just the thorn in the side of a great empire that had almost half of the world's population under its control. And Greece wasn't even a unified empire. It was a group of city-states that had some common language and some common culture. And this Achaemenid Empire would continue on for over 200 years, and it would eventually essentially be taken over by that thorn in its side when the Macedonians under Philip of Macedonia and then his son Alexander the Great unify Macedon and Greece, and under Alexander the Great are able to take over the entire Persian Empire. Now, one thing that you will see when you study the Persian Empire is you had Cyrus the Great, then you had Cambyses, then you had Gamatha or Bardia for a very short amount of time, and then you go to Darius the Great, and then his son is Xerxes. Then you have Artaxerxes and Darius the Second, and then you have Artaxerxes the Second, and Artaxerxes the Third, and Artaxerxes the Fourth. So as you can see, most of the Shah and Shahs of the Achaemenid Empire were named some variation of Darius Xerxes or Artaxerxes, which can get very confusing, but you can see they are referring to different people. There was especially many Artaxerxes. But the last Achaemenid Shah and Shah, the last Achaemenid emperor, was Darius III, and we talk about him because he was defeated multiple times by Alexander the Great. And in 330 BCE, this is when he was finally killed, and you have Persepolis being not only falling to Alexander the Great, but really being sacked and looted by Alexander the Great. And starting with Alexander, and it was a short-lived control by Alexander, but after Alexander's death, then you have the period of the Diadochi. Eventually, the empire breaks up, but most of Persia gets controlled by the Seleucids. And the Seleucids, that dynasty was established by Seleucus, who was one of Alexander's generals. And so you have foreign rule until you have the Parthians re-emerging to take control of the Persian Empire.